Hello everyone. Thanks for sticking around. You're watching VCT Pacific. We are doing our first episode of the weekly recap. I'm Victoria, just to recap. We also have Achilles and Valdez. Yeah, we're doing this already. So the weekly recaps, we're just here to chill with you guys. We're going to invite special guests over the course of the next 8 weeks and including into playoffs. They'll be here. We're going to have a chit chat with them, probably make them do weird challenges, and we're just going to break down some of the hot things that happened over the weekend. Starting off with the first day, we had the Korean dominance. We also saw a very long game on that same day with Global Esports in T1 that went all 3 games. We even saw our first knife kill, like our first full Tondo gaming by Team Secret. What were some of your favorite moments?
Definitely a big fan of the Team Secret win over Talon. I think that was a big turning point in a lot of people's minds for VCT Pacific, where it's like, oh, this is the way it's going to go. It's not just going to be clear cut and dry, and not all the predictions are going to be straightforward. So that was a really big boost, I think, for that scene. I think the 2-1 and both of the map wins being very dominant were a really good sign for Team Secret. So that was fun. I mean, obviously some of our strong teams are really strong, and seeing like some high-level VALORANT is always a lot of fun. So also enjoyed the stomps as well, personally.
Yeah. Those are always good.
Yeah.
How about you?
I like when we just turned the stage on for the first time. The intro, finally unveiling it to everybody. Like a school counselor, I just saw myself in the camera. I loved the opening and the first time that the audience kind of got to see the stage and activating it, as we say at the international events and whatnot, having the players take to the stage for the very first time, as well as having a sold out crowd and whatnot here. So that was sick. For me, that was kind of like the best moment of the week. Finally being able to say, okay, Pacific has begun. We can, because we all know this, we love to work because we love our job.
Yeah.
So when you're not casting and you're just sitting at home watching like other esports go on, you're just like, God, I want to get back in the studio. So it feels great to be back.
I mean, you've been on the international stage. How was the setup? Was it ever set up like this before in Korea? Have you seen like the way the stage was set up with the AR and all those visuals?
We've had some like AR stuff in the past across a bunch of different esports and whatnot, but the way that we're integrating it for this show, I think is very unique. The stage design itself, it feels like you're at one of the international events.
Yeah.
We've kind of gone above and beyond to just match that style and have the same kind of the same kind of feel to it, I suppose, with the massive LED screens, the way that the lights are going crazy and whatnot. So it feels like I'm back at an international event, even though I'm right here at home.
It's really cool. I mean, you're right. I wish sometimes, because I'm usually at the desk, I just want to be inside the audience with the rest of the audience to hear that booming music and that
Victoria
walkout.
cast win.
One day. Let's talk about standings. We're not going to talk about casting. Let's talk about standings. So we had a lot of unexpected wins. I think one learning lesson from all of this was that Brazil lock-in wasn't a true indicator of how they would be performing this weekend.
And I mean, that was kind of always going to be the case. We go off of lock-in a lot because that's the only taste that we really had of the teams and their power levels and whatnot. But just given the format of that tournament, it's a celebration of all of the teams in franchising across the world. It's not a double elimination tournament. It's a single elim. You're playing best of 3s. People are going to be going home. So there was always going to be a lot of chance for upset, a lot of chance for teams not being able to really show off their true potential. And I think that we are kind of seeing that. But we're also seeing an immense amount of growth that has been coming out. Again, have to highlight the likes of T1, Team Secret as well, proving themselves after having a pretty easy opponent in Team Liquid, a very tough one in Na'Vi. They're showing their real firepower as well by taking down Talon. Detonation looking a hell of a lot better after that series over in Sao Paulo, as well as RRQ. So I mean, I'm right there with you. I don't think that we could fully trust in everything that we saw at lock-in, but now is where the foundation starts getting laid for all these teams, and we can actually figure out what the rankings look like.
Yeah, also, I mean, this is why regular season play is so fun, because, we got to see, first taste this first week, right? And we're going to do this weekly recap and go over a lot of the cool plays, but we're going to get 9 weeks of this, where it's like every week there's something new, cool that happened. We didn't just only get to see, like 1 or 2 best of 3s at lock-in, and that's all I got to see of my favorite team. No, it's like every single week you can find these guys playing at least 1 best of 3, and that's always a lot of fun. So you're going to see some cool upsets. You're going to see some moments where, you know, maybe this team was expected to do really well, they didn't, and then this other team had a big uprising like late in the season, and all of those like kind of full season recaps, like at the end of it, it's like, oh, our expectations were like this, but we had these really cool differences and changes in our minds, and I'm just looking forward to doing the entirety of this regular season.
No, absolutely. I mean, let's just talk about just now. You know, we won't go into too much detail about this, but we just saw RRQ play against Gen.G, and that was the first time these two had played against each other internationally.
Yeah, I mean, two very new organizations, but I don't think that we've ever had any of the players from either of these teams clash internationally. So I think that was across the board very much a first. And clearly, you know, Gen.G fairly well prepared. I mean, we were talking about it at the end of the show. Sylvan saying, "Yeah, well, like, we came out here, we just wanted to win. You know, shoot him in the head, whatever, blah blah blah." We mentioned like that can be dangerous. You don't want to underestimate. Obviously, we did see RRQ picking up a fair number of rounds across those two maps. Really good starts for them, especially on Fracture with that 4-round streak they were able to set up. It's still sucks to see them kind of like end up giving, you know, having that really strong start and then start immediately just dropping round after round after round. 10 consecutive never feels good. I mean, 10 consecutive obviously across both halves, but then dropping the pistol, dropping that eco round. It's very rough, and it's something that needs to be fixed because we've seen it in the past. There are these teams that can get snowballed on, and you need to be able to break the snowball. You have to stop that enemy momentum and then get some back yourself. And I think that that's one of the biggest things they need to work on is just those fundamentals.
Yeah, that's a very good recap. And they didn't really stop it with their second map, Lotus. With that, I kind of want to point out some of the map picks over the last 3 days. Lotus is the last map that we had ended on. It seemed to be quite a popular map, actually.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting that we get Pearl and Lotus here at the top. As was mentioned before on the desk by Achilleos, like it does seem like a lot of teams, even at Lock-In, were beginning to pick more Pearl and actually beginning to prioritize this map more than some others. I was happy to see Fracture coming out once again. I actually quite like that map. I think that Gen.G played it exquisitely well up against RRQ and really had their number on that one. So yeah, it's been pretty good so far. I'm just, you know, waiting for the first split map as well.
Why don't we talk about, like, real quick, why is there no split?
Happen?
Yeah, why is there no split?
It's hard to say just because I feel like the overarching changes to split haven't really altered the identity of the map too much. I think the teams just really want to continue to drill it and work around the changes that have occurred on the map before they're fully comfortable in playing it. And that also obviously is going to be delayed as you have other agents getting integrated and whatnot. I think it's going to be some time before we see Gecko, but you want to be able to run everything and try every single iteration you possibly can before you're willing to go for a map. And that also extends over to agents. As we can see, we got through this entire week. No one's opted to pick Gecko yet.
Yeah, no Gecko at all, and no Chamber, of course. I think we kind of saw like the diminishing.
Yeah.
There's so much of him, and now there's none of him, and there's still none of him. But Killjoy being the most played.
I think there's definitely some meta agents. Like, obviously, Killjoy and Jet coming out a lot. KO is a big mainstay, but I'm sure that eventually we'll get one person who's like, I really like Chamber. We won map 1. Let me get a shot at it. Maybe I can play really well. Like, he still is the same agent, obviously, with some big nerfs over the last couple of months. But I think it'll happen, just especially at the beginning of the season. It's like, okay, everybody's just going to play Killjoy and Jet on every single map, and it's not really going to change. Killjoy, I guess, having the lead in one map. But yeah, I mean, pretty straightforward meta picks so far. Nothing too out of the ordinary, but eventually someone like Amon is going to pull out the Reyna. I guarantee it.
Yeah, I mean, Killjoy, it's not shocking, and I do agree. I think that we're 100% going to see Reyna before we see Chamber, before we see Gecko. I feel like that's just, unless somebody really wants to throw a curveball and have that Gecko coming out. But I think Reyna is a bit more likely. I wouldn't mind seeing it from Evan again because he did play it quite proficiently. But we'll have to just wait and see. But I think that for the most part, it's just going to be those two out of the meta. Everything else is kind of going to be filtering in. But given the strength of Killjoy, even with the recent nerfs, it just hasn't quite done enough because the lockdown ult is just still so very valuable. Being able to buy that much space, having it be less reliably eliminated by enemy utility. I mean, it's a fairly heavy commitment. You think about two of the biggest things that can take out that ultimate is a Hunter's Fury as well as a Brim ult, so an orbital strike. And to commit both of those just for a singular lockdown obviously feels very, very bad. But it's something that you have to do because the lockdown is so strong. So I think unless something else happens or some kind of new tech is found,
Gecko.
I mean, the Gecko, you can destroy it with a mosh pit. But
Little
that would
green
require,
puddle.
we're going to need to see people play around in some crazy lineups in order to make that
Sure.
happen, on common Killjoy spots. So, I mean, I'm curious if somebody will decide to do that. It's just, we have to give it a little bit more time, let the teams cook and see when the time is right to take it out of the oven, I suppose.
All right. Well, let's also talk about our MVP picks, because we had a good discussion about this over the last few days, and we came to a conclusion about a couple of them. One guy for me that stood out a little bit differently than your standard, like amazing, multi-kills was Devi. He really brought these amazing moments where Paper Rex should have lost. And he was the last man standing and completely clutched the round in 1v3 type situations.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was actually going for Benkai on this one. I think that across both maps in the series, Benkai was instrumental. He's obviously also the IGL, so you have that unsung, uncalculable buff, and that in a statistic that you kind of need to rope into the overall team play, keeping everybody steadied when you are in that situation, like on Lotus versus TFM, where it was looking like they were going to drop the map. But Devi was the one who kind of put, I was going to say pencil to paper, but gun to head against the DFM members and just knocked them down one after the other every single round. On the back end of that map, he was the one who was clutching up to be able to get the wins. And then obviously Meteor, our most recent one that gets tacked on there with just another incredible performance. So I don't think that really any of the ones that we have up there, I agree, I think maybe Devi is the one that people would have expected a little bit less. Because normally going to a PRX series, you probably think it's going to be Forsaken, Jing, maybe even Benkai as I had to vote for. But I mean, Devi came up huge and he showed like, yeah, I deserve to be on this team. So screw you, naysayers.
Yeah, it was cool to see him popping up there. I was impressed by Envy as well. I think from yesterday was a huge part of the reason why the team was able to essentially have that consistency across many rounds. Like part of the reason why I feel like the wins from Team Secret were so dominant was because he was getting consistent, multi-kills and stuff like that. So that was cool to see. I also really liked Meteor, just from today. Maybe I'm biased because it's the day I was working, but like he just kind of made both maps about him. Like his raise on Fracture you could not ignore him, even though like we were first looking at TS on his team and then we were looking at King and we were like, okay, these two guys are probably going to be the two guys we highlight. And then Meteor's like, no, it's me actually. Again, I'm back, and he did it again on Lotus as well. So I'm kind of biased towards those players that are like, okay, I'm just going to take over the entire lobby, and he did exactly that today.
But again, I mean, you still have to give that shout out to the rest of the team functioning around him to enable him to do that. It does kind of feel almost like a classic Optic and Ye situation where it's just like, let's enable this guy to go ahead and run rampant. And I mean, you take a look at Goddead's statistics at the end of it, the number of assists that he had was enormous. I think he was almost averaging an assist per round throughout that entire set. So great to see Goddead back and just really helping Meteor pop off as we have come to know and love from him.
Yeah. Well, let's actually go into a couple of those highlights, these popping off highlights. Some of our favorite moments. One of my favorite moments was, on day one with DRX versus Zeta. This was a big one when you have Korea versus Japan, this longtime rivalry. It was a really exciting game. I know a lot of the Japanese audience was tuning into this, but DRX was playing so well. And one person that really made it extra exciting was the addition of Foxy9. It was the first time we'd seen Foxy9 actually play live with the team. He hasn't yet appeared until this moment. He had a reputation for maybe getting a little early stage jitters, but then he really warmed up and proved himself, getting like triple multi-kills and ending the game with a really insane ace. A beautiful, clean ace.
Yeah, I mean, we've always known that Foxy9 has just amazing mechanics. We've seen it from him, but it's always been in show matches, so it's never been on a VCT stage. We all obviously know that DRX was looking at having him implemented into the roster by the time that Lock-in came around, but they decided it needed a little bit more time. And even in this matchup, it wasn't necessarily like, okay, this is the game plan. Buzz had personal reasons he wasn't able to attend. Otherwise, we, in all likelihood, we're going to be seeing Buzz competing in this match versus Zeta. But Foxy, he rose to the occasion. He did have those early jitters. We saw that roughness, a couple whiffs at the beginning of the map. But as time went on, he just started dominating. He ends things off with an ace. It's just a perfect cherry on top for him in that debut. And I can't help but feel like he was probably so relieved after just getting that win under his belt and popping off as hard as he did.
Yeah. Also for any naysayers, he's like, it's done and dusted. And I feel like that was a great way to start with something kind of fresh and new. And I really enjoyed that. So what was your favorite, Seth?
For me, this might surprise some people, and granted, I kind of surprised myself. Rather, DFM surprised me. Because for me, it is the DFM versus Paper Rex series that this was kind of my highlight for the week. I think this, especially second map, we'll focus in on that. Lotus was where I was very caught off guard with how clean DFM was looking. So Jess in particular was absolutely destroying with this race. The number of kills that he was putting up, despite the fact that this ended up being a loss, was monumental. So I gotta give it to this because it was a completely unexpected banger match, one that we didn't anticipate. We thought, okay, Paper Rex, they're obviously going to be contending within like the top 4, top 5 teams here in Pacific. DFM probably hovering around the bottom. This should be clean and easy. And again, DFM nearly ended up taking this map for themselves. So just at every moment was looking incredible. You had Anthem as well, finding an ace for himself, our second ace of the tournament at this point after Foxy Nines. And it was just an awesome back and forth between these two squads with Paper Rex and, again, credit to Devi, barely scraping by with the win to close it out 2-0.
Yeah. How did you find this game, Brendan?
I mean, you can just see from the highlights, like, this Lotus map was so hype, it was so back and forth. Like, to see this clutch moment at the end from Devi as well, just barely able to clear out the site, and against all odds, essentially, I think it was like a 2v4, they were able to just get the defuse off, so just really cool stuff. Like, you could see that Paper X were the team that essentially at the end of the day did deserve to take the win, but DFM did not make it easy for them, and I had another match which I thought was really interesting. Obviously, a big one that a lot of us voted for Talon. We were like, okay, they had a great result at lock-in recently in Brazil, so they should be able to take this. Well, Team Secret had a different idea, and it started out with Talon's dominance, you know, winning the pistol round, starting off very well. But then all of a sudden, you kind of get double back-to-back clutched by Borkum, who's, you know, not even like the biggest name on the roster, but you're like, oh, like, well, what's going on here? Like, this guy is just gonna pop off this hard against us. This is the first one, and then he does another one on the A side as well, which is really beautiful, this one here. And it's just crazy because from there, the entire momentum and the entire story of the series, I feel like, totally shifted.
Yeah, I mean, it was really good early reads, as you were saying, from Talon. This, unfortunately, for Cruz, just getting timing, just shifting back, doesn't see anything on that approach from Tree. Borkum just strikes at the perfect moment. So they really started finding their groove and just really working around Talon, running circles around them. But Talon did have those good early reads. It was looking like that was going to be a much more competitive map. But fortunately, the series was overall competitive in that it went to that 1-2 scoreline for Talon in the loss. But clearly, things that need to be fixed, maybe some change-ups as well for their fracture, because as we were talking about on the desk just at the beginning of the show, during the pre-show, Secret studied the ever-loving hell out of their playbook, and they were just able to really lay it all out there and just shut them down.
Yeah, I mean, that fracture map was brutal. Really interesting plays by both sides. I really like that you like all the understated players and kind of who rise up and surprise us. And I'm expecting a lot more of that coming into next week. You know, we talked a bit about RRQ and their performance today, and they get to go up first next week on Saturday against Zeta. So it's almost like their redo, and we can see how they can do. I'm particularly excited. I mean, this is going to be very obvious, but very excited for the Paper Rex versus Team Secret game right there, front and center.
Yeah, absolutely.
Philippines versus Singapore, Malaysia. Both of these teams had such a strong showing, and having them come head to head next week is going to be fantastic. I imagine just so much enthusiasm from the Valorant fans too.
Yeah, I mean, we heard from Jesse Bash in his winner's interview just yesterday. He was saying, you know, Paper Rex has always been our team to beat within, you know, the APAC region, within Southeast Asia. It's always Paper Rex because DRX isn't included. Otherwise, if DRX is in the mix, they say like, okay, we need to be able to beat them. But there is this long-standing, you know, want to overthrow Paper Rex, since they have often been the representative, since Team Secret was not present at international events in 2022. So they want to basically reclaim that spot that they had established for themselves all the way back at Champs in 2021, where they were able to make it out of that group stage, make it into the playoffs. So I think that this is going to be super exciting because Paper X, they do look like they're still, despite the 2-0 victory, on a little bit of a dip. They're still trying to figure out certain things. They need to tighten up certain aspects of play. Again, Forsaken playing that Yoru and Lotus as if it is a Jet, and oftentimes getting a little bit frazzled. I mean, you see that in that Anthem ace where he just TP's like 2 feet to the left and Anthem just pulls out a classic and kills him. So there's things that still need to be fixed from the side of Paper X, and Team Secret in the meantime is just looking better and better. From lock-in into this tournament already. So I think that that's going to be an awesome set because Paper X, aside from beating DRX, this is probably like one of the other teams that they really desperately want to be able to take down, just given that regional rivalry.
Yeah, and imagine that coming into this one, Team Secret's able to start off the season 2-0. Like that could happen against all odds, essentially. Like these teams have fought each other a lot, Team Secret and Paper X, but like, are they the favorites coming into that matchup? I don't really know. Like before the season really started, I would have said Paper X, but after what we saw this week, I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I think there is a lot of, the fandom is definitely shifting around as these different teams come face to face with each other. We also have a really exciting T1 and Talon game next week. With that, thank you for joining us for this week's episode 1 of VCT Pacific. See you guys next week. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.